Now, just a little warning before we begin. There will be major spoilers in this video for the 6th episode of The Lord of the Rings of Power. So if you haven't seen it yet and you don't want anything ruined, it is a really good time to click away.
I'm proud of you. You said the whole name this time.
I did, even though, funny enough, I think we should kind of look at this episode taking out the Lord of the Rings part. Mm-hmm. Because let's be honest, it is so far removed from the actual lore at this point that there's no... I mean, I wouldn't say there's no use in just ripping it apart for being completely devoid of any actual, semblance of the lore. But let's just... Because I think this episode is something that really doesn't stand on its own. Even if you consider this its own completely unique and different thing from Lord of the Rings, I have so many... I'm sorry to say, I have so many issues with this that it's just mind-boggling.
So issues beyond it being lore.
Yeah, this is. I'm just going to leave alone the lore. I'm going to leave alone that we saw like the transformation into Mordor and the birth of Mount Doom and how that's not how it all goes down. The fact that we...
So we're going to leave it for like more people like me who are a little more casual.
Let's just pretend. Yeah.
Who haven't read the Silmarillion and all the appendices and
like I said, we could spend plenty of time tearing this apart. For lore reasons, but it's so far gone. Why even bother at this point? Let's just judge it on its own merits. Is what I'm saying. Cool.
Do you want to start with the beginning or start with the end?
I mean, it's all kind of a big long.
It is one big.
It was all we didn't have any Harfoots. We didn't have Elrond. We didn't have any of that. It was really just kind of one. I mean, for its credit, I guess it was one kind of episode itself, one story within it, kind of, if that makes sense. So there was like a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it kind of did have that, at least. I mean, how did you feel about this episode? Because I had so many issues with it.
Oh, I definitely had issues with the writing and stuff, but there were some things that, again, someone who doesn't know lore, and we're not going to talk lore in this video, I guess. So someone who doesn't know lore, I kind of thought, I'm like, oh, wow. Look at this. They like triggered Mount Doom to create the smoke that we see over Mordor so the orcs can always roam free because Orc Father, who somehow birthed the orcs.
Sure.
I don't know how that happened, but he did.
He's a proud papa.
Proud papa.
Yep.
I don't know where his women folk are.
Don't worry about it.
It's frightening to think of. But, I mean, there were some interesting things, I thought, from a standpoint of someone who, again, doesn't know the lore, like hearing the story of how the Twisted Elves, the Uruk, who we know later are like called the Uruk-hai.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, so this is... He talks about how they're twisted. I mean, their blood is black, and they're the ones who created the orc race, and he wants freedom for the orcs so they're not slaves anymore. I can't wait to see them settle down as farmers and shepherds.
Yeah. Yes, that's coming, I'm sure.
Have little orc babies.
If it wasn't for Sauron, the orcs would have been peaceful
heard of
farmers.
Sauron?
I guess
he
so. I mean,
enslaves the orcs
we still
again.
Don't know who Sauron is for whatever that's worth.
The one that's so bold to say he's dead.
Yeah.
I call BS.
Yeah, he's. I mean, in theory, he retreated to Mordor right away after, the war. After the War of Wrath and the end of the First Age. But
I mean,
whatever.
I thought it was cool that the orcs dug a tunnel to funnel the water.
Dug a tunnel to funnel the water. Kind of rhymes.
They dug a tunnel to funnel the water so that they could create ash.
Cloud cover, I guess.
Cloud cover, so they didn't have to worry about the sun.
Erupt,
that explains why Adar, the episode previous, was like feeling the sun for the last time.
Yeah.
Because he knew he would not be feeling the sun anymore. I mean, it's despite the fact that I know it doesn't follow lore and stuff. I mean, it's an interesting story unto itself that he's doing this for the orcs, that he's trying to make us have some sympathy for the orcs, which is hard to do knowing Lord of the Rings at all, because you're like, well, the orcs are the bad guys, 100%. But he's like, no, they're not. I'm like, they still would eat people, and they're still ultra-violent. But I thought it was interesting, the whole little making the orcs a place to call their own. Though I didn't understand the sword. They said the sword was a way to enslave the Southlanders.
Yeah.
Or something.
Something like that. To control them, yeah.
But all it did was open the dam.
Well, I guess that's a way to control them, by darkening their sky.
Well, they dug a tunnel, though. That wasn't originally the plan. What, was it just, we will threaten you that if you live here, we could flood you out at any time? If they hadn't dug that tunnel, I thought the Great Wave was coming.
I mean, I don't know who built the thing the contraption to make the valley flood, essentially. Who made that? Who built that? And for what purpose was it?
Heard of Sauron.
What was the original purpose behind creating that?
To control the Southland. That's what they said. The sword was going to... Southland blood...
The dam or whatever it was, the thing that made the water suddenly start flowing. It was like... I don't even remember. Like, there's like some explosions and then the water... There was like a waterfall. Mm-hmm. And, who originally created that and for what purpose is what I'm asking. Okay.
I don't know.
But, none of that stepping outside the lore do I have an issue with. I don't think that was like... just, again, looking at it outside the context of actual lore, I didn't think that was, like, bad in itself.
No, I thought that part was really kind of interesting.
Sure.
Because
but for me, it was, again, timing.
And the timing was a mess.
Okay, so we've had it kind of implied that everything on Numenor is happening at the same time that everything is happening in, well, we'll just call it Mordor. We'll stop calling it the Southlands. It's, they've been in Mordor all this time. So... We've kind of had it implied that there's this kind of, parallel story going on. Mm-hmm. And so if that is the case, it took them...
Minutes.
Days to go from Numenor to Mordor, which is... Nope. It's not like a couple-day travel.
No, so that timeline must be a little skewed where the Numenor stuff is happening quite a little bit, I would say. At least a week. A month?
Probably, yeah. If you look at Mordor, it's surrounded on three sides by mountains. That's part of its, attraction, that it's such a fortifiable position. Mm-hmm. So to get into it, if you've watched Lord of the Rings, there are only a handful of ways to really get through those mountains. That's why it's so tricky to get in there, right? There's the Black Gate. There's a hidden pass that Frodo and Sam take. And so I'm curious how the Numenorian army got in there.
Don't think about it.
So are the cats. They're really curious as well.
She did watch it. So.
Yeah, the bigger issue, though, I have is why the sense of urgency out of the Numenorians. Like, they were like...
Out of Galadriel and the Numenorians?
They were, like, under the impression they had to get there right now. Why?
Well, it was so funny, in a way, because she's desperate to get an army. And I understood that part, because she's been gone too long, blah, blah, blah. She does have this obsession, because she cannot stop.
Yeah.
But she's obsessive about going after this place. And then they're galloping. They should keep showing them galloping
like,
full
through the night.
Speed through the night.
Why?
That's dangerous to gallop full speed on a horse through the night, for one.
Sure.
I mean, even someone who doesn't know horseback riding knows it's a real fast way to hurt your horse.
Yeah.
They're an army. They're 300 people. They have to go to more... No, 3, because they lost 2 ships.
Oh, well, I thought it was still 5.
It was 100 a ship. They need over. So 300 people, let's say. That's going to take a while to move. They have to stop for meals, make camps.
No, not them. They just rode like...
They're not used to this. They're not they're a sea guard for the most part,
Yeah, well, I mean, my issue is like, we know Galadriel...
I mean, what battles have they fought?
Galadriel has been looking for signs of Sauron for presumably hundreds, 1,000 years. We don't know how long she's been like out there looking, and she finally starts to find some signs of them. She finds the little, oh my god, she's on Numenor, and she's like, oh my god, they've been in Mordor all this time. That piece of paper they found there had been on Numenor for years, and all of a sudden it's like, oh my god, right now we have to get to Mordor, like right now, because something's going down.
And how did they know where the village was that everything was happening?
I don't know, because there's like one village in there. But no, I mean, that's the biggest issue I have is like they made, like, we have to make haste and get there today. Like, these pieces of the puzzle have been laying around for how long? And yet now you're like, we got to get there now because otherwise it's going to be too late. Like, what are you talking about? How would you come to that conclusion?
Right. There were a lot of really weird things in this episode that happened very quick. I mean, they dropped the tower on a bunch of orcs.
One piece of rope or whatever just made the tower collapse too. Like,
right. And it collapsed in the correct direction.
Well, of course it did. What was the alternative? To have it not work at all?
And then why didn't the humans just hide? Why are they still broadcasting their position? I mean, the humans all left the tower. Why didn't they just keep going? Why didn't they run? Why do they have this obsession with we're going to stay and fight the orcs? First half their number left, and they weren't huge numbers in the first place. Let's say there were 100 of them in the tower, and 50 of them went to join Sauron.
I know, there were so few people. That's what I don't... Even though they kept multiplying whenever they needed more villagers.
Yeah, and then Elrond by himself takes down the tower and somehow people
with
survive.
one arrow. There was like a piece of rope, and then everything just kind of broke. Like somehow he engineered that.
He's really good, yeah.
Yeah, I could see like that meme where the numbers are going, and the equations. Like I just like so if I hit this piece of rope with this arrow, the whole tower will come down.
And Adar survived.
Of course he did, even though it looked like they all got crushed.
Nah, he survives.
And then he sends mostly humans into the village to attack next. And why these human villagers just fought to the death? Like if you had just left, this town, right, and you had just joined the other side, and you come back and you're going to attack. I mean, I'm not saying they're necessarily going to be happy or show mercy or anything. You might be imprisoned or whatever. But I'm taking off my hood and my helmet and be like, hey, dude, okay, I'm sorry, I made a really big mistake. I'm not going to fight to the death for this guy that we left you guys for a couple days ago. Have mercy on me, whatever it is, but like, let's not just die here.
Well, they thought they were going to be on the winning side.
Yeah, but as soon as it started going south, like I take my helmet, I'm like, I'm sorry, I was an idiot. I mean, if you end up killing me anyway, then okay, but like, I'm not just going to fight to the death for the random orcs. And, I mean, is it supposed to be that they're that corrupted already?
Hey, unlike stormtroopers, though, these orcs, they can hit people with arrows.
Apparently. They got really good aim.
Well, they were up in the woods aiming while no one was expecting it.
Yeah.
In the end, they peppered the field. This isn't, House of the Dragon.
I also like that when Bronwyn, is that her name?
Yeah.
Like, she got shot with an arrow, and that was the only person that they really... Well, the other guy died, too, but, like, we saw a lot of people getting peppered with arrows as they're getting into the house, but all those other people just disappeared, so we could focus on Bronwyn, and once the other guy died. It's like, well, there were other people getting hit, too.
Well, yeah, a lot of people who got hit didn't make it, though.
Well, I know, but some of them, you're at least going to try, right? Why was she the only person, like, we're all going to try to save her? I mean, I get she's your
the medicine person too.
Sure, but it's like
she's the one who knows how to heal people.
I don't know. That bugged me too.
Yeah.
But that happens in movies so often, like 80 people get shot down, but the one main character gets hit. It's like, oh, we got to focus on saving her. Who cares about everybody else? Whatever.
Bronwyn's no Boromir.
No, God, no.
But she only took one arrow, thank goodness.
Yes, I guess. Boromir could... I mean, I don't... as some know, I'm a Faramir fan, but...
No, he's a Denethor fan.
No, he doesn't understand his having one good son and one corruptible son. But anyway, I mean, Boromir is a beast for taking like all those arrows in the Lord of the Rings and still...
Bronwyn's down with one, I don't understand.
I know, jeez. No, I'm just kidding. But anyway.
Yeah. Then you have... There's probably like 30 people at most, crowded into the tavern when the real orcs come.
Yeah.
And then they just start stabbing people. Oh my God, there's your Game of Thrones moment right there. That was kind of rough to watch.
Yeah, but that was good though. I mean,
it was showing the brutality and how far they're willing to go to get what they want. But it was, oh my goodness, it was hard to watch. You know what? They're building tunnels and stuff all the time. Why didn't they just go and wreck the dam?
I don't know.
Why did they have to go so far to get this sword to open the dam when they could have just made a hole themselves? I don't know.
I'm also not sure how long they were in that tavern or holed up in the keep for, whatever it was where they were holed up.
Before,
and then all of a sudden, like, when the Numenorians arrive, it's like morning? Like, how did that happen again?
Don't think about it.
Yeah. I guess it's supposed to be like mini.
Anytime heroes arrive, it's daytime.
Yeah, I know. It's like mini Helm. It's like Walmart Helm's Deep here, where it's like, oh look, just as the sun rises, the good guys show up. No, that's. I mean, it works beautifully in Two Towers, yes, but here it's like, what? Mm-hmm. How long did this little battle in this little village take? Because I mean, you have to imagine the orc army knows it has limited time, right? As soon as the sun goes down to the sun comes up, it's like that's our window. Mm-hmm. So what did they wait till like? Almost morning to launch their attack? Like, did it take them that long to get there, I guess, or to figure out where they were? Not that we even know how they knew where they were.
Fickle thing in this show.
Oh, yeah. Fast travel.
Night and day last as long as they need to.
Yep. It's like travel in Star Wars. It takes however long it takes to, for the plot or how long it requires for the plot. That's how long it takes.
And I love when our heroine, Galadriel, shows up, dodging arrows by going side saddle. She did it twice to show off how cool she was. And then they did the most obvious thing ever. They bait and switched the weapon. We all knew when he's like, hey, so-and-so, I have a task for you. I'm like, he doesn't have the weapon.
How did that not feel different in your hand? Because the weapon had, bulkier It had, the little pieces on it, and this was like a hatchet.
Yeah.
It's
not even all metal. Difference. The weight would have been askew.
Yeah, the weight would have been different. Just the bulk of it would have felt different.
But then, I love it. Galadriel and Halbrand ride him down on their horses. They've been riding for like 7 straight days or something.
How did Halbrand get in front of him? Or Halbrand?
He knows the Southlands, clearly. Clearly he knows the Southlands.
And allows him to teleport?
Yes. He can teleport around. He's the king. That's what kings do. And he has some dark secret that all the Southlanders are going to hate him for. But then you get more sympathy when you realize that Adar's done something to a child, possibly his child.
Killed his
child, or I don't know. Yeah. We still just get such scant pieces of information. It's hard to tell sometimes.
But the Southland seems to be 2 villages and 100 people. It's
surprise, you're the king of however many people survived.
You're the king of this handful of people.
Yeah, there was a handful of people left surviving the tavern. Let's say 20, because the orcs got a little knifey.
Yeah.
And then they started fighting again. So let's say there's 20 people left, but that party scene at the end, I swear there were 100 villagers. Yeah, they were all mixed in with the Numenorians.
I love when shows do that. They want to show villagers getting killed, but then they're we still need to have a lot of villagers, and so all of a sudden they just are all back.
And Galadriel's turning into a corrupted elf.
Something. I don't even know what is going on with Galadriel.
Halbrand, don't kill him. Why? I will
kill him when I get angry. You're not allowed to get angry and kill him. I have to get angry and kill him.
But then he stopped her. Yeah. It's double standards. And she's like, oh yeah, sorry. I'm not killing you. Yeah. And then he just disappeared.
Yes,
he laid down on the ground. The fiery ash starts rolling over. They show the place he was chained up and he was gone?
Yeah.
Sneaky Adar. He must still have some magic or something. That's one thing I'm missing. They talk about the magic of the elves. Where is the magic of the elves?
The anger of the elves. You've heard the quote wrong also. Yeah.
No, but I thought... I keep waiting for more wonder and magic. I felt it all the time when we watched the original. Even when they weren't performing crazy things. You just felt magic in the world. You felt that the world was something special. I don't get that. And I'm sad.
No, you don't get a sense of wonder from the world, yeah. Well, the world is just something you conveniently can traverse, apparently. I'm not sure how they've got to where they got so quickly. And they made it sound even when they showed the map, it'll take a day to get up the river and a day to get over here. I'm like, what? How? We got flying horses? Or are the eagles coming?
The eagles came and carried them over the island.
The eagles are coming. Okay, whatever.
But now we have stirred up the fires of Mount Doom, and
we're ready to make a ring.
We are.
One ring,
which he kind of implied that Sauron was looking for something like this already.
Yeah, well, he is. He needs his forge, even though Mount Doom's been there. It's not a new thing.
Well, it's fired up now.
Yep.
More active than ever.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The show is a little bit of a mess. Sometimes
it's not the best writing I've ever seen. And then there was the saltwater quote that just made me... I winced at the... you can't quench your thirst by drinking salt water or whatever. It was oh, God. Don't tell me Numenorians would actually say that. I think it was Galadriel to
Halbrand. I'm like, she was saying it to a Numenorian, it would make sense.
But even then, do you think the Numenorians would say that?
Yes, all the time.
It would be here's Wisconsin. You can't quench your thirst by drinking beer. It's just kind of it's so cheesy, or would be so
cheesy.
Yeah, I know. And they're wink to Wisconsin again. But it's so cheesy. God, they wouldn't actually say that. That's so dumb.
Well, everything they do is flowery speech. It's very...
Everything,
They're in the middle of war, and they need a long analogy about the battle. They can't just say, hey, they're coming over the ridge. Hearken, the enemy doth crest the top of yon mountain. What?
That's pretty good. You should be writing for this show. It's better than what they come up with. Wasn't bad. It wasn't bad. A little more Shakespearean than whatever they're going for, but yeah.
I should have used some sort of deep metaphor about seawater. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it should have been about seawater. But anyway, I think that's all we got for you this time on this episode.
It's better if you ignore any sort of lore that you may know.
Well, that's what we tried to do, right?
But like I said, it still has story problems.
We could sit here and say how it contradicts the lore. And look, I'm not saying I'm forgiving it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, I don't care about that anymore. No, it bothers me, right? But at this point, it's if we're going to keep reviewing it, and someone made a comment the other day about how all you're doing is talking about how it's not the lore, you're not talking about the show, so here you go. Let's talk about the show and how bad it is.
I don't know the lore, so...
Yeah, well...
There's that.
You know how to write good dialogue, though.
Quiet you.
But anyway, take to the comments below. Tell us what, independent of the lore. I get people don't like that, as I said. So tell me what you think. Is this show on its own good? And, I mean, we could, of course, ask the question of what's the point of, getting the Lord of the Rings lore only to kind of not use it. And I know there's legal issues. They have only so much they can do. I get all that.
They're using bits and pieces.
But I mean, what's really the point of just taking the established lore and just doing whatever you want with it?
Because you needed the rights to those characters.
Yeah, you're right? Really just trying to use the name. You don't really care so much about.
They're telling their own story.
But anyway, take to the comments below. Tell us what you think. Let's talk some rings. And until next time, thanks for watching.